Hello. All right, so quick recap. What is the circle of control? The circle of control is simply making your life amazing by focusing on the things you can actually affect, right? If you do that, your circle keeps growing, your life keeps getting better. If you focus on the things outside that circle of control, which is kind of everything else, most everything, right? I mean, the majority of what happens in life is just going to happen. You can't control it. So if you let that weigh you down, that's what leads to anxiety, depression, this emptiness. It's that gap between where you are and where you want to be. And if you let go of all those things you can't control, you're better off. I am on this endless pursuit to master my circle of control because I want to be the best husband. I want to be the best dad. I want to be the best friend. I want to hopefully make your day better. I want to leave you better than I found you. I want to be great for my clients. So I decided with that in mind, okay, there's so much to read. There's so much to look at. There's so much to watch. I mean, between social media, YouTube, books, it can be overwhelming. So I said, I'm going to boil it down to my top 10. What are the top 10 things that will make for a great life if I can keep doing these? And I finished the list and there's 15 on it. So my top 10 actually has 15. Maybe you can help whittle them down. But the key is find your top 5, your top 10. Start with your top 1. But what you make part of your daily ritual is what will become your life. All right, so first one, no particular order. The victim identity means one sees more power in the past than the present. That's a huge one for me. And sometimes I think I'm guilty of even being not as empathetic as I need to be or should be, because I'm very quick to write somebody off as, oh, they're being a victim. I don't write them off as a person, but the concept of the second somebody goes to what happened in the past is like a trigger for me, because there's just no value in that. Whatever happened, happened. You can't change the past by looking at the past, but you can change the present and of course the future by changing what you choose to do, the thoughts you choose to have, the actions you choose to take. And this is the hardest one for me because there's people in my life that I just love and would die for, but I see them, rewatching that same Netflix episode of their past. And, it's still most viewed for the month on their watch list, and it just doesn't help you. So try to decide that, like, okay, I had terrible stuff happen. You heard it in my first, episode. We all do. But try to say to yourself, what can I do today to make the rest of my life great? Forget about the past. All right, the second one is, are you talking about it or living it? Know it or know how? Sporadic or ritual? And that's a big one that I hold myself accountable for, right? As the Chinese proverb says, much talk does not cook rice. It doesn't matter that we read that book, that we heard of that thing, that we know we're supposed to be present. I'm going to be present. What matters is actually doing it and incorporating it into your life. So, ask yourself, what are the 1 or 2 books that have really had an impact on me, or podcasts? What is it that I really resonate with? And then just make those your study guide, as if you were going to be passing a final exam on those topics and those ideas. Because if you can make even a few things a wonderful part of your life, make them a ritual, your life will guaranteed be better than if you just know about a million great things. Just knowing doesn't help you. It's getting it to be a habit. Everyone knows, if you don't know, Atomic Habits, greatest book ever by James Clear. When you make things a ritual and a habit, it's like the most rewarding thing. It's like, for me, it's like the cold plunge, which I just did. It's like, it is so painful. It is so uncomfortable. I still don't look forward to it, but in a sick way I do now, because I see what it's done for me. And once you can get past that tipping point, it's amazing. All right, third one. Want and worry keep you from now and cause pre-TSD. And I think I made that term up and I'm very proud of it. Forget about post-traumatic stress syndrome. That's hard enough, right, to deal with something that happened. But it's incredible how many people will have pre-traumatic stress syndrome. They're already feeling the weight of something that hasn't even happened. And that, I think, is one of the greatest triggers or flags for you if you're interested in the circle of control. The second you start feeling the weight or anxiety or sadness or even joy for that matter of something that hasn't happened yet, you're already, creating this dis-ease. Remember, disease, I love that concept, is really dis-ease. It's the body manifesting what's going on in your head. So be very careful of that. Next one, all the energy you put into things you can't control comes at the expense of things you can control. Okay, so that is the circle. So that's one of my biggest ones. That's everything we're talking about. Systems trump goals. Systems. People succeed every time they apply their systems in the sense that they did what they intended to do. That's a big one for me because as a realtor, as a former restaurant owner, you're always doing these budgets and these business plans and, picking numbers out of the sky. I mean, yes, they're based on last year's number and what might happen in the future. But for 15 years now, I don't even think about numbers. My wife and I make the majority of our living from real estate. I don't think about how many buyers, how many sellers, how much I'll sell. I only think about what are the daily actions that I need to do to have a great life, to take care of my clients, right? If I think every day, all right, I'm gonna reach out and call my clients, I'm gonna study the inventory in the market, I'm gonna stay up to speed on what's happening with money, mortgage rates, interest rates, things that affect the business. I'm gonna work on bringing my best self, that morning routine of slowing down so that you can speed up, if you will. If I just do those things every day, I'll automatically hit whatever that magical goal was gonna be. And it doesn't even matter what it was, because the reality is if I just do what I believe works every day, then that is the goal. I mean, that is the number that it's gonna be. Because picking a random number or a random, I'm gonna retire when I have 10 million, or I'm gonna make $1 million this year, it's just so subjective and random. And I think it creates anxiety again, because now you have this random target, and there'll be plenty of people that'll tell you, well, hey, if you don't aim for the moon, you won't hit the stars or whatever. But the reality is, I think you can be very proud of and control the daily actions, and that feels good. I always say, even when we've had cash flow crunches or been in rough situations, I sleep like a baby. And so does my amazing wife, because she's come so far with this as well. Because we know that we are doing every day what we can do. And that's all you can do. Doesn't mean I couldn't be better. I always want to be better, but you don't know what you don't know. So in the moment that you're in, say, these are the 6 things I'm going to do today to be a better husband, to be a better wife, to be a better partner. These are the 6 things I'm going to do today that I believe will grow my business or make me better at work, and just do those. All right, next one. Don't add thought, interpretation, storyline to a situation. This is a huge one. This is such an Eckhart Tolle thing, which I love, love, love so much. He's like, everything is just adding a story. There is, if you're gonna do a story, like I always say, being the eternal optimist, make it a positive story, right? If, second COVID struck, I just said, hey, something great is gonna come of this. This is a reckoning, this is a cleansing that we all needed, whatever it is. I just assumed right away it was gonna be something positive. And of course, anybody that died or was terribly sick, that's horrible. But in general, there ended up being a lot of good things that came out of it. So, but again, better not to tell any story, just let it be. So what's an example of storytelling, right? Somebody doesn't call you back. You can immediately go into, oh my gosh, what did I say last time we were together? Did I make them mad? Oh my gosh, maybe they don't like me anymore. Maybe they think I did this, and people start spinning out with this whole storyline that is literally made up in your head. So I always say, instead of telling a story, ask a question. If you're going into any kind of a story, just turn it into a question instead. I've really learned to do this with clients, right? They deserve the best of me, and the best of me is not guessing what they're thinking. It's asking, hey, it seems like this is really bothering you. I've said to clients, hey, it seems like you're having trouble trusting me. It seems like there's something else going on. Ask the question, because storytelling is just gonna put you in a bad place. All right, don't be complicit. Be aware of your go-to response, interpretation. So I love this one because you are complicit in that negative thought if you start telling those stories. Maybe that's why I'm at 15 now. This could probably have been coupled with the other one. So now we're down to 14. But don't assume, as my son was over last night and he said, I'm really getting good at not assuming, I'm asking instead. So if you go along with, but like this is the flip side as well, like somebody else's story, right? If somebody says to you, you're not nice, or, you screwed me over, or, you made me feel bad. if you don't be complicit in that thought, right? Don't take it personally. If you're going to go along with that insult, then you're just hurting yourself. If you care about that person, ask questions and try and solve it, but don't be complicit in the insult. Don't be complicit in the negative story, because then you're owning it and making it part of your world. There is nothing more powerful than, I think it was Anthony Hopkins that said it, whatever anybody else thinks of me is none of my business. And I love that concept. You know who you are. If you're living by your personal constitution that we've talked about, and your principles and your values, then you don't have to worry about what anyone else thinks, because you know you're living the best life you can live. All right. This is a good one. There are two ways to be wealthy: to get everything you want, or to want everything you have. And that comes from Ryan Holiday in The Daily Stoic. And I love that one because it really is the truth. I mean, I grew up a super rich kid and it was misery, right? So that was a great example of getting everything doesn't bring happiness. Now that's a separate conversation, by the way. I think money buys freedom, and most times freedom makes you happy, but that's a separate podcast. But anyway, just think about like everything you have. I was just on vacation in Brazil, which I was super grateful for. And I bought a new pair of sunglasses, and they weren't cheap, and literally lost them the next day. And I had like 5 minutes of feeling devastated. I cannot believe I just lost those. I already felt a little bit like, should I buy these? And then I lost them. But then I was so proud because I've trained myself and it worked. I immediately said, instead of focusing on what I just lost, I'm going to make a list of all the things that I'm so grateful that I have. And then I thought, I hope somebody found those that would never be able to have those glasses and they get to enjoy them, because that's better anyway. Like maybe this was the universe saying, you have enough glasses, you have enough things, you don't need more things. And I went from like this real feeling of like, I hate wasting hard-earned money, I hate losing things. And then I went to this great place of joy and peace as a result. And the funny part is, I got them back the next day. I had left them in a taxi, and the taxi brought them back to the hotel, which was epic. So if you believe in energy in the universe, maybe, that letting go is what made them come back, and that's a separate podcast. But I really believe, call it religion, call it anything you want, I'm good with it. But energy is everything, right? Think of life as like a radio frequency. What are you tuning into? If you tune into gratitude, you'll end up in lots of gratitude. If you tune into misery, you'll find everything and everybody that's miserable. So think about that. All right. Next one. Don't count your actions, weigh them. Don't count your actions, weigh them. This is going to sound very like demeaning, but I used to say that to my district managers, my general managers, when we had 300 employees in all these restaurants back in the day. I'd go into one of the restaurants and I'd say to the district manager, like, what's going on here and stuff. And his answer, or the manager's answer, would be, well, I have 6 people on staff, for the table, waiting tables today. That's what we're supposed to have, 6. And then I saw, the people that were working that day, and there was some really weak people there. And I looked at them and I said, you know what? Maybe instead of counting heads, you need to weigh them. And, the idea behind that is, don't ever just assume that because there's 6 waiters that it's going to be taken care of. Because if 4 of them are amazing and 2 of them are terrible, it doesn't matter how many there are, the result's not going to be there. Same thing with all of us, right? We make these to-do lists, or at least I do, that make you feel good. You get to check things off like, wow, I had such a busy day. Look how much I got done. But the truth is, weigh those items. Don't just count them. I got 12 things done today. That might mean nothing. It's probably better to get one thing done, the right thing, the thing that's going to really move the needle. So what I've done as a result is I make my must-do list first, like the 3 things that have to get done today, and then the would like to do list. So it gives me a cheat sheet to not get lazy and just check off the easy things. I have to do the things that matter most first. Okay, next one. Your life is designed to get the results you are getting right now. You are following your script perfectly. Think about that. It's one of my favorite, I can't remember who said it. It may have been Tony Robbins, and he may have gotten it from somebody else. But I love that idea that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And that's what so many of us do, right? You just keep hammering. Maybe if I swing the hammer harder, it'll work. And instead, you got to stop and say, what can I change to change the outcome? Like, really stop. And this is why the morning routine has been one of the most special things in my life, because as you can see, I'm very like, I move fast, I think fast. I'm like, I have to always work on slowing down. And that's why I do that morning routine, because when you just sit and stare into the clouds, this morning, I should turn the camera around. It's this beautiful haze over the valley here in LA. And it's almost like this peaceful vibe. And you just stare into that and you just think peacefully, or try not to think right after the meditation, let my mind slowly come back to, but what do I love about my life? Is there anything I don't love about my life? What's missing? You know what? That's the key. I just got to stop doing that, or I need to start doing more of that. Like, change it, because it's not going to change itself. There is no magic. And definitely don't blame anybody else, right? You are the author of your story. You are the script writer. You are the choreography. So it's time to choreograph a better dance if you don't like the rhythm you got going. All right. It is your duty to understand and be patient with others. We are not all born the same. Assume what is obvious to me is not to all. Assume what is easy for me is not to all. And that's one of my biggest ones, because most of my failures in my younger days was doing the opposite of that, right? I could go in and wait 20 tables at once in my restaurants. I could whip up, prep up the whole menu in 2 hours in the morning. Why does 4 cooks need 6 hours? Whatever it was, and it's a really arrogant kind of way to be, right? Like, oh, it's easy, And I will say, I believe a lot of my life has been great because I assume everything's easy. It's a mindset. It's easy. It's easy. I got this. And it's not that it's easy, but that thought process helps. But it's not fair to apply that to other people. We're all born differently. We all have different skill sets. I know so many people that are way more successful, wealthy than me, and they seem chaotic, right? Like, who am I to judge why they're not doing this, that, or the other thing? They're still able to get it all done, even at a higher level than me, with the way they do things. So just always stop and say, like, hey, what's going on? And for me, like, driving is a big one. When somebody's in front of me going really slow, I'm really working on being like, hey, you know what? Maybe they've been in a bad accident. Maybe they're just, struggling with a lot of anxiety, and for them, just driving to the store is hard. Slow down and stop acting like, I shouldn't be so arrogant. Like, why can't they just go faster? Because I want to go faster. Be kind to others, especially. Election is a week away. More than ever, we just need to love each other. I don't care if it sounds naive or Pollyanna. I am just going to double down on love and kindness, because anything else will not help. All right. Start from where the world is at, not as I would like it to be. This is a newer one that I heard, read, saw somewhere, and loved that idea. And that's a big challenge for a lot of us, right? Like, why can't it just be this way? Well, that's not the way it is. So it doesn't matter if you like it to be that way. It automatically puts you at a huge deficit, right? Because for me, let's use the driving example. If I'm going to waste my energy wishing everybody would drive as fast as me, I'm already starting in the negative, way in the negative, because that's not the way it is, right? This is the way the world is. Embrace it and start there. And then, go from there. It'll make your climb a lot shorter and a lot more invigorating if you're not starting your climb in a hole you spend tons of energy, time just getting back to even. Start from where the world is actually at. And for you dreamers out there, for you visionaries, entrepreneurs, amazing people, that is how I think people change the world. Is they're not even starting where the world's at. They're starting where they want the world to be, which is incredible, right? So they're skipping like 2 steps. All right. Here's another one. Turn 10 steps into 3. This is a huge philosophy of mine. And it's one of the reasons that I, had to end a partnership with a restaurateur in the past, because, he would turn everything into 20 steps. I'd turn it into 3 steps. So you can imagine that divide made it very hard to work together, because I'm a huge fan of, like, again, getting to the essence. Like, it doesn't mean there isn't, what's the right word? Like silly things or little things that should happen, right? Like, I just read something recently that said, like, writing, 1,000 lines of silliness gets you to that one line that changes everything, right? So it's not that you don't want to spend, it's not that everything you do has to be like refined to perfection, but I also think that most times there's a huge opportunity to say, like, what really matters here? How can we get this done? Do we really need to follow these 10 steps, or what are the key steps that'll pivot this and make a difference? You know, it kind of goes along with that same thinking of a good decision made quickly is way better than an amazing decision that takes forever. So think about what it is you do, things that you follow, processes that you could eliminate some steps, because it makes it more focused, it saves time, you know, and it'll probably keep you enjoying it more. I'll never forget when I was writing the training manuals for this big restaurant company that I was a partner in, and oh my God, I screwed up so bad because I had, everything was like a million steps. I expected everybody to know everything, and it was so unrealistic. But then when we hired a new HR director and we drilled it down to the essence, what really matters, it's not that they know every ingredient in the dish. The training steps don't need to be 100. It can just be understand these few concepts, and you'll understand the culture, and then you can always ask questions on the menu if there's more to it. All right, 2 left. The next one is Kaizen. That's one of my very, very, very favorites. And it's kind of the opposite of my nature, but I love it. If you haven't heard or read about Kaizen, it's the Japanese art of being 1% better every day. Google it, or check out my website, jeffreysaad.com, for my book recommendation that I love. But it's just this incredible idea that just get a little bit better, whatever it is you're trying to do. If you want to get in shape, start with 1 push-up. If you want to reach out to your sphere of influence, if you're in sales or in some kind of a business where you need to connect with people, start by just making 1 call a day. You know, if you want to fall in love, do 1 nice thing for somebody that you care about. You know, if you want to learn to surf, just start by floating on a board, get your equilibrium down. And all of a sudden, if you just get a little teeny bit better every day, if you're 1% better a day, you're 37 something percent better a year. So, and that's very easy to maintain, or easier, I should say, than saying, all right, starting tomorrow, I'll go to the gym for an hour. You're likely to not get it done. All right, last one. Nothing is good or bad. It's only opinions, thinking, that make it so. I love that, because really, it's just when we put all this thought, now we're down to 13 maybe, because that's probably could be coupled with the storytelling one, you know, but the second, you know, try to go a whole day without having an opinion. Like, check that out, right? Because it's all we do is walk through our lives with opinions and judgment and analysis. You know, it's just, no matter what happens, you know, don't say it's good, don't say it's bad. It just is what it is, and continue on. You know, because the more opinion you give something, the more storytelling you start doing, and the more spinning out starts happening. All right, so there's my top 10 that are really 15 that could probably be 13. I hope it helps. Find your top 10. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for listening. Cheers.